Chapter 4 Hearing is Seeing. How soon after entering the novel does an important character speak? Do we need to hear him or her in those first moments? Where do dialogue and physical description converge in the creation of the outward character? Captain Ahab finally appears on page 120 of the modern library edition of Moby Dick after several days of wandering and speculation among the crew. Frederick Henry gets his first look at Catherine Barclay on page 18 of A Farewell to Arms. Miss Barclay was quite tall. She wore what seemed to me to be a nurse's uniform, was blonde, and had tawny skin and grey eyes. I thought she was very beautiful. Two great novels, two very different approaches to the physical description of a major character. Hemingway gives us a little help, then lets our imagination do the rest. Melville paints Ahab down to the last wrinkle. How much physical description to write, if any, is a decision you make every time a character walks into your novel? How much of the portrait do you want to leave to the reader's imagination? And how does that work? How, with little or no physical description, do you create a character's image in the reader's mind's eye? The voice as physical description. Huckleberry Finn is one of the most enduringly vivid characters in all of literature, and yet there isn't a word of description of him anywhere in the novel. In all of Moby Dick, Ishmael never tells us what he looks like. Few first-person narrators do. Score of what is perhaps Faulkner's greatest novel, The Sound and the Fury, for physical description of any member of the Compson family, and amazingly, no, you won't find it. Why then do we see Huck, Ishmael, and the Compsons so clearly? Benji Compson, the idiot, is the narrator of the unforgettable first section of the novel. I listened to the water. I could hear the water, and Caddy opened the door. Why, Benji, she said. She looked at me, and I went and she put her arms around me. Did you find Caddy again? She said. Do you think Caddy had run away? Caddy smelled like trees. When we went to Caddy's room, she sat down at the mirror. She stopped her hands and looked at me. Why, Benji, what is it? She said. You mustn't cry. Caddy's not going away, see here. She said. She took up the bottle and took the stopper out and held it to my nose. Sweet smell, good. I went away and didn't hush, and she held the bottle in her hand, looking at me. Oh, she said. She put the bottle down and came and put her arms around me. So that was it. And you were trying to tell Caddy and you couldn't tell her? You wanted to, but you couldn't you? Of course could, Caddy won't. Just wait till I dress. Benji's simple-mindedness and confusion. He doesn't hear questions as questions are captured in his narrative voice, and so are the hurt and sensitivity that no one but Caddy perceives, or even tries to perceive. Bewilderment, anguish, muddled along. With this welter of emotions comes the visible person. Faulkner has stripped our imagination. We see the pain in Benji's eyes, a tragic confusion of loss and fright. Caddy's dialogue in this scene brims with compassion, and we also hear her fearlessness in displaying it. There's love in her words to her pathetic brother. Earlier in the novel, the action in the two first sections of The Sound and the Fury shifts erratically here and there in time. A younger Caddy reveals her venturesome side. Benji is remembering. We were playing in the branch and Caddy squatted down and got her dress wet, and Vush said, Your mama going to whip you for getting your dress wet. She's not going to do any such thing, Caddy said. How do you know? Quentin said. That's all right, I know. That's all right how I know. Caddy said. How do you know? She said she was, Quentin said. Besides, I'm older than you. I'm 7 years old, Caddy said. I guess I know. I'm older than that, Quentin said. I go to school, don't I, Versh? I'm going to school next year, Caddy said. No, she should whip you when you get your dress wet, Versh said. It's not wet, Caddy said. She stood up in the water and looked at her dress. I'll take it off, she said, then I'll dry. I bet you won't, Quentin said. I bet I will, Caddy said. I bet you better not, Quentin said. Caddy came to Verge and me and turned her back. Unbutton it, Verge, she said. There's high spirit in Caddy's every line here, the headstrong quality that we can only admire, but which will lead to so much grief later on. Faulkner never tells us she's spreading, but we know she is, from the airy boldness, her self-assurance. This is a girl who's comfortable in her own skin, knows admiration will come her way, and is indifferent when it comes when it doesn't. She's obviously smart. Her dialogue is so alive that we can't help but see her without ever reading a word of physical description. In the fourth and final section of the novel, when the Compson's doughty and long-suffering servant Dilsey takes her family and Benji to the Easter service at the Ramshackle Baptist Church, Faulkner describes the two ministers, who appear nowhere else in the novel, their size, complexions, physiognomies, attire. Why describe minor characters and not major ones? Faulkner clearly prefers to let his greatest characters come alive in the wide world of the reader's imagination. McCarthy, Higgins, and Didion work this way. Higgins tells us that Eddie Coyle is stocky, and our imagination takes over from there. Higgins never tells us what Foley and Jackie Brown look like. We know Maria Wyatt is pretty because she's an actress, but her face and figure are evoked entirely in her dialogue. In her acclaimed short story, A Small Good Thing, Raymond Carver gives us the baker's small eyes and bristly flesh around his cheeks, and lets his dialogue fill out the picture. You want to pick up your 3-day-old cake? That it? I don't want to argue with you, lady. There it says over there, getting stale. I'll give it to you for half of what I quoted you. No, you want it? You can have it. It's no good to me, no good to anyone now. It costs me time and money to make that cake. If you want it, okay. If you don't, that's okay too. I have to get back to work. The baker doesn't know that the woman and her husband didn't pick up their little boy's cake because the boy was run over and killed. The baker, in a malicious pique, has been telephoning Anne and Howard at all hours, harassing them, and they've come to the bakery in the middle of the night to confront him. Their news and their grief leaves him thunderstruck, and after a moment, a changed man. God alone knows how sorry I am. Listen to me, I'm just a baker. I don't claim to be anything else. Maybe once, maybe years ago, I was a different kind of human being. I've forgotten, I don't know for sure, but I'm not any longer if I ever was. I am just a baker. That don't excuse me my doing what I did, I know, but I'm deeply sorry. I'm sorry for your son, and I'm sorry for my part in this, the baker said. He spread his hands on the table and turned them over to reveal his palms. You understand what it comes down to is I don't know how to act anymore, it would seem. Please. The man said, let me ask you if you can't find it in your hearts to forgive me. These are the words, ill-humored and vindicative in the first speech, stricken with remorse and self-loathing in the second, of a sad, filled, lonely man. An image comes to mind, a face, a physiognomy. To hear this man is to see him.